Hello everybody, it's Nancy News here, and today we've got a lot of recommendations today. So the first news we've gotten today is coming from Russia. We've got news that Russia and Iran are set to sign a major comprehensive strategic partnership deal on January the 17th, according to the Russian news agency TASS or TASS. So on this day, we've got news that on January the 17th, the Iranian president will be meeting Vladimir Putin himself in Moscow on January the 17th to sign this new major Iranian-Russian comprehensive agreement. So this comprehensive agreement that Iran and Russia are set to sign has a lot of similarities to the ones that Russia and North Korea signed. Russia and North Korea signed a comprehensive strategic partnership that allowed them both to send each other military equipment, trade, anything. So it's very interesting news. We'll see what happens here. And the next news we've gotten today is coming again from Russia again, where we've got news that the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un may visit Russia in the first half of the year. This was according to Yonhap news agency reporting and citing from South Korean intelligence information. So in the first half of 2025, we can expect Kim Jong-un to visit Russia, maybe in Moscow. So interesting news. And while on the topic of North Korea and Russia, we've got some news coming from Ukraine today. So if you can see this video here in the bottom left corner, we can allegedly see the first North Korean soldiers that have allegedly been captured by Ukrainian forces in the Kursk region. So these alleged North Korean soldiers were apparently captured in the Kursk region, where they were brought to the capital city of Ukraine, Kiev, for questioning. So the questions basically went, do you know where you are? And he said no. Do you know you're in Ukraine? He said no. And just a lot of questions to these alleged North Koreans. So I don't actually know if they're speaking Korean. I think they are speaking Korean, but this video was actually published by the President Zelensky, the President of Ukraine, Zelensky, on his X profile on social media. And with this published video by Zelensky on social media, he stated that Ukraine is actually ready to hand over these prisoners back to North Korea if they organize Ukrainian soldiers for an exchange held captive in the Russian Federation. So big news. We've also got news that South Korea has announced its readiness to accept these alleged North Korean soldiers captured by Ukraine. North Korean soldiers are considered to be South Korean citizens according to South Korean constitution, according to Yonhap News. So very interesting news. Again, this has not been confirmed or anything, but let's just continue. We've also got news that at least 300 North Korean soldiers have apparently been killed, and 2,700 of them have been wounded in the war against Ukraine, according to South Korean intelligence. South Korea believes that the casualties of North Korean soldiers are due to their lack of understanding of modern warfare and their ineffectiveness attempts to shoot down UAVs. So that's all the news we've gotten about the North Korean subject today. We've also gotten some news today that this week Lithuania will send Ukraine 4,500 drones worth over 5 million euros, the country's defense minister stated. She also added that improvements will be made to deliver drones more quicker, the Lithuanian defense minister stated. We've also got news today that the German defense minister Boris has delivered the first of 54 new RCH 155 wheeled howitzers ordered for Ukraine. So the initial 6 systems will remain in Germany temporarily, and these 6 systems will be used to train Ukrainian soldiers with this weapon. We've also gotten some more statements today coming from the White House. So the White House has actually stated that Ukraine will ultimately have to make a decision on lowering the conscription age in Ukraine to 18, the White House reported. So the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky responded to this statement from the White House, stating that we have over 100 brigades in the field, and each require daily resupply, he said, regarding constant equipment shortages and repair needs. Zelensky emphasized that increasing personnel isn't enough. Brigades must be fully equipped and supported by international partners. So Zelensky is stating that it's not the manpower that is a problem in the battlefield in Ukraine, it's equipment. There's not enough weapons. And the next news we've gotten today is coming from Romania. We've got news that tens of thousands of people protested in Romania's capital on Sunday against a top court decision last month to annually cancel the presidential elections after a pro-Russian candidate unexpectedly won the first round in the Romania's presidential elections and emerged as the front runner. So now there's been a couple of tens of thousands of people that have actually protested in Romania's capital due to the cancellation of elections in Romania. And the next news we've gotten today is coming from Germany. We've got news that Germany is now granting its armed forces the authority to shoot down unidentified drones believed to be spying on military bases, industrial facilities, and other critical infrastructure, according to sources familiar with this situation reported by Bloomberg. So Bloomberg is now reporting that Germany is now granting its armed forces to shoot down any unidentified drone that is spying over Germany. We've also got some news coming from Finland today that traces of drugs were found in the Finnish parliament following a Christmas party, according to the Finnish broadcaster news agency of Yle. So Finnish journalists specifically searched for drugs in the restrooms after a Finnish Christmas party happened in the parliament building in Finland and actually found traces of ecstasy and cocaine in the restrooms in the Finnish parliament. So very interesting news. We've also got some news coming from Denmark today that Denmark acknowledges that the US has security interests in the Arctic and is ready to discuss them with the new administration of America. President-elect Donald Trump, the Danish foreign minister, stated while responding to Greenland being a part of the United States. We've also got news today that the American Organization of Patriot Polling has published a survey showing that 57.3% of Greenlanders actually support the island's integration by the United States, while 37.4% are opposed. So this survey was reported by The Hill, among other outlets. So it is stated that 416 people who live in Greenland were surveyed. For a reference, the island's population is approximately 56,000 people. Previously, we had news that the Financial Times reported that all Greenlanders it actually interviewed in Greenland were against joining the United States. Meanwhile, Greenland's Prime Minister has expressed support for the island's independence. So, Kingdom of Denmark is wanting Greenland to stay in the Kingdom of Denmark. Greenland wants to be independent, and the United States wants Greenland to support its Arctic defense, maybe against Russia. So, very interesting news. And the next news we're going to be talking about is coming from Belgium, where we've got news that the NATO Secretary General acknowledged that Ukraine is currently unable to negotiate with Russia from a position of strength. We've also got news that he announced that EU countries would need to spend up to 10% of their GDP on military needs instead of current targets of 2% if they want to create a defence system outside of NATO, said Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, speaking at the first time in the European Parliament in Brussels. We've also got news that we've also got some statements from him that he announced that Europeans will have to learn Russian if the EU does not allocate more money for its defence. If we don't do this in 4 to 5 years, we will have to take Russian language courses or go to New Zealand. So I don't know why all go to New Zealand was an option, but I would gladly go to New Zealand. I don't know what his problem is with New Zealand. But we've also got news that his last statement was, if you look at what Russia produces in 3 months, it's equivalent to the entire NATO from Los Angeles to Ankara, the capital city of Turkey, produces in a whole year. So NATO Secretary General was saying that Russia produces more equipment, more of everything equivalent to NATO in 3 months that NATO produces in a year. We've also got news today of some news coming from the United Kingdom, where just stop oil activists vandalised Charles Darwin's grave in Westminster Abbey in London. So we can see here in the bottom left corner, we can see activists vandalising Charles Darwin's grave. So 2 women have been arrested after climate protesters sprayed paint over the grave of Charles Darwin inside Westminster Abbey. Climate protests group Just Stop Oil said that 2 activists used chalk paint on the grave on the famous naturalist, who is best known for his theories on evolution. We've also got news that the British boxer Tyson Fury has announced his retirement from professional boxing following 2 consecutive defeats to the Ukrainian boxer Usyk in 2024. And the next news we've gotten today is coming from France, and more specifically coming from a secret military base in France, this pier right here. So French submarine crews accidentally turned off stealth mode with a fitness app. So French nuclear submarine crews members unknowingly actually revealed patrol schedules by sharing fitness activities on the Strava app. According to French media, Strava is an app for tracking the activity of athletes using mobile devices. So this pier here is a French military nuclear base housing 4 nuclear-armed ballistic submarines, and it's the most secretive place in the French Navy. These submarines have maintained continuous patrols since 1972, ready to deliver nuclear strikes on presidential orders. Strict measures are taken here: ID checks, facial recognition, and electronic bans to protect the base and its 2,000 people staff. So despite this, French nuclear submarine positions and patrol dates were actually leaked by the crew members logging into fitness apps showing the location. So French nuclear submarines have been spotted, and their positions and their schedules and everything about them have apparently been leaked by this fitness app. And the next news we've gotten today is coming from Africa. We've got news coming from the president of Burkina Faso. According to the president of Burkina Faso, Macron, the president of France, should pray to Africans because he needs to thank our ancestors that France exists. That's the only statement we've gotten from him. We've also gotten very big news coming from Israel today, that Hamas and Israel have agreed in principle on a draft Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal that could finalize agreement this week. So Hamas and Israel have agreed on a peace agreement, a ceasefire draft that includes a hostage deal and a finalized agreement. Could be happening this week. So Benjamin Netanyahu stated that it is only a matter of days or hours to reach a deal. I am ready for a long-term ceasefire in Gaza and to recover all hostages. We are waiting for Hamas's response, and then the deal will be announced immediately. So apparently very soon, it could be this week, the war in Gaza might actually stop. So very good news coming from the Middle East for once. We've also gotten some news that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will not attend the events marking the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz concentration camp by the Red Army, reports the Times of Israel. So earlier, the Polish government had stated that it would allow the Israeli Prime Minister to safely attend the events despite an arrest warrant issued by him on the Prime Minister of Israel on International Criminal Court. So Benjamin Netanyahu won't be attending the liberation of Auschwitz. We've also gotten some news today that the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken stated that Hamas cannot be defeated by military solutions alone. And what is happening in northern Gaza is evidence of that. Our estimates are that Hamas has recruited new elements of as much as it's lost. So Hamas is still a standing force that can't be destroyed, according to Antony Blinken. We've also got some news coming from Saudi Arabia, that Saudi Arabia is to sell enriched uranium, expanding nuclear program. So according to Reuters, Saudi Arabia is developing and expanding a nuclear program that would eventually include uranium enrichment, stated the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and this and it wants to use nuclear energy to diversify its energy mix. So in the near future, Saudi Arabia will sell enriched uranium. We've also got some news coming from India today that the Indian rupee hit an all-time low. So you can see this chart here in the bottom left corner. The Indian rupee hits an all-time low. So I'll keep you updated on that. We've also got some news today coming from China, more specifically coming from the Yellow Sea, that China has successfully launched 10 small satellites from a floating platform in the Yellow Sea. So if you can see here in the bottom left corner, China launched the Geelong 3 solid rocket from a mobile sea platform late Sunday and successfully placed 10 navigation enhancement satellites into orbit. And the next news we've got on today is coming from South Korea, where we've got news that the South Korean impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol has been arrested by the Corruption Investigation Office. So it has now happened. So if you remember these past couple of updates about South Korea, we had news that the impeached president didn't actually recognize the arrest warrant that was placed on him due to the martial law that he placed under South Korea. So he's now been arrested. So if you don't know why he was actually arrested, so if we go back to December the 3rd, he imposed a martial law. So South Korea imposed a martial law citing alleged North Korean interference in his elections, only to reverse the decision 6 hours later after ordering forces to storm the National Assembly. We also had news that after he got impeached, he ignored 3 summons from investigators. His security team blocked repeated attempts by the CIO and police to remove him from his residence to arrest him. So in the end, the president of South Korea actually caved in, and he stated that he left his residence to avoid bloodshed. And the last news from today is coming from the United States. So we've got a news that the United States has just removed Cuba from the list of states of sponsors of terrorism. So very big news. The United States, as I just said, has removed Cuba from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. You can see the form here in the bottom left corner. Due to this, Cuba actually will release 563 prisoners after talking to the Vatican president. So Cuba will now release 553 political prisoners after the Biden administration announced on Tuesday that it was removing Cuba from the list of state sponsors of terrorism and taking other goodwill actions. So the Catholic Church had been negotiating with the government of Cuba over the release of prisoners, most of them that were jailed following the unprecedented island-wide protest in July 2021. A brutal crackdown initially led to the arrest of more than 1,000 people. Many faced prison sentences of up to 30 years. So Cuba will now be releasing 553 political prisoners due to Joe Biden's decision to remove Cuba from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. And we've also gotten some last statements coming from Joe Biden in his final speech on his foreign policy legacy. So President Joe Biden reflected on his key achievements and challenges during his term, addressing the war in Ukraine. Biden empathized. So Joe Biden stated that Putin thought he would conquer Kiev in 3 days, but it was I who was in the center of the Ukrainian capital, not him. When Russia invaded Ukraine, apparently himself, Biden set 2 primary goals: uniting the world to support Ukraine and avoid direct conflict between the 2 great nuclear powers. The Russian President Vladimir Putin failed to conquer Ukraine and undermine NATO or achieve any significant territory gains. The ruble remains under pressure and Ukraine stands a free and independent nation with hope for a bright future. Biden underscored how the US strengthened its alliances, avoided prolonged wars by ending the Afghanistan conflict, and bolstered the American economy. Biden also urged continued support for Ukraine, noting that his administration has laid down the groundwork for the next president, Donald Trump, to help secure a prosperous future for the Ukrainian people. We've also gotten some news today that the US House has just passed a bill which bans biological men into girls' sports. So that's all the news we've gotten today. I am Non-Scene News. I'll try and provide you news that medias around the world do not show you. I do these videos hopefully daily, so consider subscribing and liking. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye.